Hey everyone, welcome to our camp with another recap. Today, I want to tell you the story of a movie based on a true story. It's about an English athlete whose dream was to compete in the Olympics. This is the story of Eddie the Eagle. The story begins with Eddie as a little boy who dreams of competing in the Olympics. But because of a leg problem, even his family doesn't take him seriously. One night, he runs away from home to make his way to the Olympics on his own, but his father finds him and brings him back. A year later, Eddie's leg fully heals, and he's finally free from that awful brace. That moment only makes his Olympic dream burn brighter. But during training, he keeps messing things up. One day, after accidentally breaking a window at home, his father loses his temper and forces him to come to work the next day to learn plastering. The next day, near his father's work site, Eddie sees a ski slope. Right then and there, his dream changes. Instead of the Summer Olympics, he now wants to compete in the Winter Olympics. Eddie starts training on that slope and slowly begins winning competitions. As he grows up, he becomes one of the candidates for the British national team for the next Olympics. But during a sponsor meeting held by the head of the Olympic Committee, he accidentally causes a disaster. Seeing this, the committee head kicks him off the team, telling him he'll never qualify for the Olympics. Eddie starts believing his dad was right, that he should just get a normal job. He decides to pack up his ski gear, but that same day, he sees a TV program about a ski jumping hill in Germany. A spark goes off in his mind, and he rushes to the British Olympic office. Eddie wants to join the ski jumping team, but the official tells him the UK hasn't had a team in that event for 50 years. Eddie wants to be the first after so many years to compete in that sport, so he packs his bags and heads to Germany, despite his family's strong objections. When he arrives to Germany, he sees the world champion ski jumper, Maddie, also known as the Flying Finn. Eddie is thrilled and tries to get an autograph, but Maddie is too arrogant to care. That night, Eddie has nowhere to stay and a very little money. The next morning, Petra, the bar owner next to Ski Slope, finds him in the storage room. Eddie apologizes, explaining he didn't have a place to sleep. She isn't surprised. For her, it's not the first time someone has come here chasing a dream. Petra offers him a deal. If he works at the bar, he can stay there at night. Eddie accepts right away. He goes to the ski slope and decides to start on the 15-meter hill. He jumps and lands smoothly. Then he moves on to the 40-meter hill, but this time he loses balance and crashes hard. Luckily, he isn't seriously hurt. Eddie goes to a ski shop and buys a better pair of skis, determined to make it. He trains all day, but every single time he crashes. He can't land properly even once. Bruised and battered, he's found by the snowplow driver, who sarcastically tells him to quit ski jumping. Eddie shoots back.
Yeah, well, when I want advice on how to drunkenly plow snow, I'll look you up.
In the storage room, Eddie finds a photo of the US Olympic ski jumping team. To his shock, one of the team members is that same snowplow driver. Petra tells him the man's name is Peary. He trained under one of the best coaches in the world, but was kicked out because of his lack of discipline and alcohol addiction. Eddie rushes to Peary's garage and begs him to coach him so he can make it to the Winter Olympics. Peary thinks Eddie has completely lost it and kicks him out. The next day, they meet again at the ski slope. Just then, a jumper on the 70-meter hill loses control on landing and breaks his neck. Peary warns Eddie, this can happen even to the best. If he doesn't want to end up dead, he should quit now. But Eddie won't give up. He even tries convincing Peary at the bar. He finally decides to teach Eddie a few things. They sneak into the Norwegian team's training hall, and Peary begins showing him some basic techniques. Then, Peary himself climbs to the top of the 90-meter hill and performs a flawless jump, stunning everyone, even the Norwegians. The next morning, Eddie goes back to the 40-meter hill. This time, carefully applying everything Peary taught him, he lands perfectly. He wakes Peary up to tell him he wants to compete in the Olympics. Peary reminds him the Olympic hill is at least 70 meters, and no way he's ready for that yet. Instead of arguing, Eddie grabs Peary's alcohol bottle, which is one thing he actually cares about. Peary agrees to train him in exchange for getting it back. Eddie climbs the 70-meter hill, but once he gets to the top, fear takes over. Everyone's waiting down below. He asks someone to push him, but suddenly slips and falls into the track. He completely loses balance, slamming into the ground several times. It's brutal. He's carried away on a stretcher and spends the night in the hospital. The next morning, Peary hands him a poster for a competition happening the following month. If Eddie manages just one clean landing, he'll qualify for the Olympics. Eddie throws himself back into training. The two of them spend a tough month working day and night in the garage until the day of the competition finally arrives. Eddie has to jump from the 70-meter hill again. This time, he leaps with more confidence, stays in control, and nails the landing. The next day, Eddie's photo hits the newspapers with the headline, "The Brave Plasterer." Not long after, he receives an official letter inviting him to the Winter Olympics. But things back home in England take a turn. The head of the national committee refuses to let him on the team, saying his best jump, 34 meters, is far below the minimum requirement of 61 meters. He claims it would be a disgrace to the team. Eddie's Olympic dream hits another dead end. Eddie spends a few days with his family. He's still thinking about the Olympics, but to hit that 61-meter mark, he needs to enter more competitions, and that costs a lot of money. He doesn't have a cent. His father refuses to support him and insists he get back to plastering work the next day. But the following morning, Eddie's mom secretly helps him take his dad's van, and he drives straight back to Peary. Peary starts pushing him through brutal training sessions. A week later, they head to a competition in Austria, but Eddie's best jump is still only 43 meters. Day after day, he trains harder, but he's still nowhere near the required distance. Weeks later, they arrive at another event, which is Eddie's last chance. During a practice jump, Eddie finally reaches 61 meters. All he has to do is repeat that tomorrow. He calls his mom to share the good news, and she's overjoyed. But as always, his father couldn't care less. On the big day, Eddie is ready, and Peary's there, watching proudly. Eddie starts his jump, but midair he loses control and everything falls apart. He begs the competition official for another attempt, but they refuse. Defeated, Eddie calls his mom and tells her he'll be home soon. The next morning, his last day in Germany, he receives a letter. Excited, he rushes to Peary. His 61-meter practice jump was officially recorded. Overjoyed, he starts packing immediately, but Peary stops him. Peary doesn't think Eddie is ready. He tells him going to the Olympics like this will just make him a laughingstock. Eddie doesn't like hearing that. Peary refuses to go with him, and Eddie leaves, hurt and disappointed. When Eddie returns to London, he officially joins the British national team. The day of the Olympic event arrives. As he's getting ready, he sees Maddie on TV making a massive 114-meter jump. Everyone's watching anxiously, his parents at home, and Peary and Petra at the bar. Eddie makes his jump. In the air, he looks like an eagle and lands at 60 meters. The crowd doesn't react much at first, but Eddie is so thrilled that he starts dancing right there in front of everyone. Gradually, the audience gets swept up in his energy and starts cheering for him. The Olympic team's press officer sets up a press conference for him, and every reporter wants an interview. At the end of the long day, Eddie calls Peary and tells him he was wrong. But Peary says the thing he feared has come true, and that is nobody takes him seriously. At the next press conference, Eddie shocks everyone by announcing that instead of just the 70-meter jump, he's also entering the 90-meter event. The news spreads like wildfire. The next morning, Eddie is stunned when Peary shows up. Day 2 of the competition begins. Peary writes "Eagle" on Eddie's helmet. Eddie gets in the elevator to go up to the top of the jump. There, he runs into Maddie. Instead of his usual arrogance, Maddie tells Eddie he's improved a lot. Eddie assumes it's pity, but Maddie tells him, "For people like us, it's not about winning or losing. It's about showing the world our best and chasing our ambition." Those words hit Eddie right in the heart. Maddie takes his jump, flawless as ever. Eddie watches with pride, then steps up for his own jump. For a split second, fear grips him because the height is terrifying, but he gathers his courage and leaps. The jump is beautiful until the landing. Eddie slams hard on his back. He's one step away from being disqualified, but with everything he's got, he stands up, making sure the jump counts. The crowd goes wild. Eddie has just set a personal record, 71 meters. The competition ends, and Eddie returns to England with Peary. At the airport, there's a huge crowd waiting to welcome him home. And in the middle of it all, there's one person who's now his biggest fan, his father. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do.